And now, navo la'amud al inyan hanizker לעיל. Let us stand upon that concept we mentioned before, dikmekabel esma shisha midos tatzilus nikrayo mama'isa. That when Malchus receives from the 6 midos of Atzilus, then it's called the day of action, mash'ein ken b'rosh chodesh mekabel esme chochma, which is not the case on Rosh Chodesh. It receives from Chochma the ein muvan kol kachatam, that it's not understood the reason so much. This reasoning, that why it's called Yimei HaMaaseh. B'yuvan al pi mashkos b'Tanya, and we'll explain this. You can understand this better according to what it says in Tanya. Sof perek tes zayin b'pirush Maimar Razal. In this, our sages said, Machshava tova, that a good thought, Hakadosh Baruch Hu mitzar fil HaMaaseh, the Holy One blessed be He, attaches it to the action. So if we want to understand the concept of Yimei HaMaaseh, we'll understand the idea of mitzar fil HaMaaseh. Because the love and the fear should be galus libo, that are in a revealed state in the heart. They're what are enclosed in the actions. The emotions are enclosed in the action, the revealed emotions. But the fear and the love that are in the understanding of the mind and the hidden recesses of the heart. Their ways are much higher than the concept of action. They don't directly affect the action like a revealed emotion would. They cannot enclose themselves within the action if it wasn't the Holy One blessed be He uniting them and attaching them to the action of Ba'agasham. And I go on the Maamar there from the Alter Rebbe Dinyan Tziruf Zeh, that this concept is Hainu that sometimes the concept of tfuna, meaning to say the lower level of bina, goes down to be mochin to nukva of za. So, meaning to say that it's not coming directly, it's not coming through the midos, like normal emotion to action, but from a higher level, from tfuna, like we said, tfunas mocha. It's the emotions as they are within the intellect. Ha'inyan, and the concept is ki malchus mikanana be'asiyah, because malchus is, its nest is in asiyah, so to speak. Gam malchus nikres asiyah shebat silus. And malchus is also called asiyah of atzilus. So the sphere that the world that the sphere corresponds with is asiyah, and it itself in the world of atzilus is called asiyah of atzilus. And the fear and love that are in the revealed state in the heart, so to speak, their root is from zav atzilus. Therefore, they directly are enclosed within the malchus. Because that's the one that's right next to it. The Zeir Anpin gives life force and mochin to the nukva. Which is not the case with the fear and the love from a higher level, from the understanding of the mind and the recesses of the heart. That their ways, their levels are higher than directly affecting and becoming life force and mochin to malchus. And nikrasiya, that's called action. Because she receives from and gets her sustenance from Zah, which is, so to speak, her husband. Because Zah and Nukva are like the husband and the wife. but at times tfuna goes down from bina, the osmochin benukva to directly affect and become mochin to nukva dezah. Vukanal, and that's like we said before, be'inyan Rosh Chodesh, the concept of Rosh Chodesh, she'az ha-malchus mekabeles mechochum abina atzmul. That's when Malchus receives directly from Chochmah and Bina themselves. And that's how we can also understand this concept. Why Rosh Chodesh is not called the day of action. Because the main concept of what do we call a day of action, that's when Malchus is actually enclosed within a siyah. That it's called the day of Maisa Shal Shem Zen Nikra Hi Gamkin B'Shem Asiyah, that it's also called action because of this. So when the Malchus receives from the 6 sides of Zeranpin, that's when it makes sense that you draw down this idea. To be a life force to the world of Asiyah. Because Zeranpin itself, it nests in the world of Yitzira. It corresponds with it. Vayitzira hi mekur v'hasiyah, and Yitzira is the source for Asiyah. V'chayusu v'kiyumo, and its life force, and it establishes it. L'chein k'sheh Malchus mekabeles mizah. Therefore, when Malchus receives from Zera, on pi nikra yom ha'mayis, it's called the day of action, because from Yitzira you go to Asiyah. That's the standard flow. Mashe enken k'sheh mekabeles mechochma bina, which is not the case when it receives from Chochma bina, sheh bina me'kanana be'biriyah. The Bina receives from the world of Bria. It corresponds in the world of Bria. So from Bria you don't go directly to Asiyah. It does not enclose itself within Asiyah. Because between the world of Bria and the world of Asiyah, there's a big gap and jump. So if it's going directly from Bria to Malchus, then you can't go directly to the world of Asiyah. There's the whole world of Yitzira in between. Therefore, this day, so to speak, that's receiving from such a high level is not called a day of action. That the flow is not drawn from Malchus of Atzilus through the enclosement of the 10 spheres of Asiyah, only through Bria and Yitzira alone. So it's above Asiyah. I guess from Bria it goes down to Yitzira. Instead of going from Yitzira to Asiyah, Malchus goes down to Yitzira because it's receiving from Bina, which corresponds with the world of Bria. So, but you're going to ask, hey, wait a minute. Okay, it's not on the level of Maaseh. We say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu attaches them to the Maaseh. So maybe it does go down to the Maaseh. It's not the regular thing, but the HaKadosh Baruch Hu seems to do something that makes it that way. Also Rosh Chodesh could be that way. But the concept is that certainly there's some kind of extra greatness and praise when you do this action of attaching the thought to action does something great. Just like in a person, in order to elevate a person's mitzvahs, they don't have revealed emotions in the heart, as a Kadosh Baruch Hu mitzarfan, so the Holy One Blessed be He attaches that emotion that are hidden. And similarly, there's some kind of greatness that's not usual by drawing down these mochin of tfuna all the way from Bina into Nukfa. And that's not what happens when you're usually enclosed within the world of Asiyah. This that you're enclothing, this light and life force below from Yitzira, and if it's happening not through the enclothement of the 10 spheres of Asiyah, it's much greater even though it's so to speak attached to the Maase. Commotion is borli il. Like we explained before, the whole question that this is the greatness of Eretz Yisrael over the outside of Israel. And we say, well, what's the greatness then of Shabbos in Israel? And so forth. We had a whole beer on it. If so, this still then is greater than a regular weekday. That the Rosh Chodesh is not called a day of action. We can also understand this greatness because that it doesn't include in the world of Asiyah, according to the Midrash Bishalach, Amelech Omed al Haluach, that the king stands upon the platform, V'Agustos Yoshev Chulu, but in Augustos he sits. Shemailas HaYeshiva al Hamida, that there's this greatness of sitting over standing, should be B'chinas Hamida, that the Augustos is the king of kings, he sits. Hainu shenim shachashbal b'chinas haraglayim, that is, the flow comes down to the level of the legs, or through the level of the legs, shu b'chinas asiyah, which is the concept of asiyah. Agamu b'chinas nehi, it's also the concept of nehi. Uksiv raglei yordos chulun, it says that her legs go down towards death. It's an expression of nehi, going down to asiyah, towards the klippos. Yeshiva, which is not the case with. So that's a midah, he says. That's standing, which is not the case with yeshiva, with sitting down. Shenimshach melamayla b'bechinas asiyah. That's drawn down from higher than the concept of action. Because you're not using your legs. Therefore, the legs are included and nullified and upwards into, and so to speak, sitting idly because there's higher things going on. That's a very interesting explanation of sitting being higher than standing. And in this state, the legs are higher than the body. And therefore, also in Rosh Chodesh it says, Vayeshev hamelech el halechem chulu by Shaul hamelech, that's when the king sat down to the bread, and David wasn't going to be there, but the concept of the king sitting down is happening specifically on Rosh Chodesh. Meaning mizeh yuven mashikos b'pir ki Rabbi Eliezer she'Hakadosh Baruch Hu nasan schar lenashim sheyu mishamros Rosh Chodesh yoser min hanashim. Can understand that it says in Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer that the Holy One, blessed be He, gave a reward to the women that they guard Rosh Chodesh more than the men. Shanashim ein osin malacha b'Rosh Chodesh, that women do not do work on Rosh Chodesh. Shezeu b'emeschar gadol lefi hamavur l'mayla, and that this is truly a great reward, according to what we explained above. That when do you not do work? When is it forbidden to do work? When the revelation comes from so high. That when it comes down from the concept of thought instead of speech. Shu Olam Abriya, which is the world of Briya, Kamo b'Shabbos v'Yom Tov, like on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Mash Enkin b'Rosh Chodesh Hamshach al Yidei Adibur Chul, which is not the case on Rosh Chodesh, that the flow comes through speech. Imkein lefizeh. So according to this, then Nashim shein asuros b'Malacha b'Rosh Chodesh. So the women who are forbidden to do work on Rosh Chodesh, Tzarich lomar u'maseh shemisnutzitz lehem b'Rosh Chodesh, or Hamalchus al Yidei Habriya levad chulu, that they're getting a higher revelation on Rosh Chodesh. That the light comes to Malchus, to them, through Bria alone and not Yitzira, through only Machshav and not Dibur. And there's a kochav here for Haggah, and it says, "Inyan shanashim asuros b'malach b'Rosh Chodesh." Bebuch Parshas Tisa. You can look about this idea that women are forbidden to do work on Rosh Chodesh in the book on Parshas Tisa. Od Rush Bebir HaZohar Parshas Achre. If you lie and look in the beer on the Zohar, bring upon me a kapara that I made the moon small. V'akitzer bebuch beis sheli Parshas Aselech and Nachash Chulu. And in the kitzer of that is in my book on you should make for yourself a snake, blaze it upon the pole and so forth. B'sefer Dodi al pi Zohar v'yishiv ach el haparoches chulu. So I guess in the Maamar where it talks about that he won't come into the paroches, on that pasuk, so it also talks about it. Look over there. Odrush machar chodesh, another drush of machar chodesh. Shabir bebuch sheli hanal halal brach ve'odasham. So those Maamorim explain this idea. Back in the Maamer. And from this you can also understand as well that Mordechai decreed that we should not do work on Purim, and they did not accept this. Because on Chanukah and Purim, even though they have an extra light in Malchus of Atzilus Mikol Makom in Isser Malacha Kamo B'Yom Tov, nonetheless it's not forbidden to do work like on Yom Tov L'Fisha Giloi and Imshech L'Mato Me'Bechinas Adibur, because the light that comes down is through speech, Kamo B'Rosh Chodesh Chulu, and like on Rosh Chodesh. Mordechai Ratza Shiyeh Kamo B'Yom Tov, and Mordechai wanted that it should be like Yom Tov, that it should be forbidden Malacha, that it should be a high revelation. Now, what's interesting as well is that while the candles are lit, on Chanukah the women also don't do work. But I don't think there's something like that on Purim as well.